So I'm just letting go. 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody. I'm Dan Winter, and our co-host, as usual, for our SSP segment is Alex Galvez. Hi, Alex.
Hi, Dan. Great to see you. And I want to welcome everyone here. Kimra, Christy, and John. John will be on with us in a minute. Christy will be back. She has to take care of something. But thank you all for being here. And I wanted to keep it as an open forum for all of us. And what's up front, what's, right at the top for us most recently or not. And just what we could share and share to each other and for the evolution of for the good of all of us.
And just some background, Alex has been the introducer of so many of the SSP experiencers and person in many of the interviews we've done. He knows everybody's pretty cool, and everybody else here archived. And Alex had some ideas also tonight. We might talk a little bit about the time travel / Montauk thing, perhaps. So we'll see where we go.
Not my name's Arkeem, not Archime, just to be clear on that one.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. That becomes a spiral effect where then a bunch of other people will hear you say that and think it's correct, and so I just have to correct you right away, not to be rude, but yeah, my name's
Thank you
Arkeem.
for the correction, Archime. So Dan, I thought maybe we could all
Arkeem, you just called me Archime again. It's Arkeem.
Arkeem.
Okay.
Arkeem. Maybe we could all go around and just, if you'd like to introduce yourselves, if not, and just
Sure.
open it up.
Sure. Arkeem, would you like to go first? A short introduction, say hello, who you are. Would you like?
Sure. My name's Arkeem Ra. I am a star seed, I guess is what people call it. I was not originally human, and I got intercepted by Black Ops projects, put into human lives, and the time travel warfare is kind of like my expertise, and going to other realities and go to other realities and stuff like that. And so they just use me over and over again. It's kind of like a perpetual hell in a way, like a slavery. And there's a lot of confusion because I don't remember half the stuff that happens to me. And this is like a normal cover. So I guess that's like the long story short for me and what I go through.
Wow, I wonder if we can help. Well, interesting. Okay, thank you. Who's next? Alex, do you want to just do a short intro on?
Well, right after that from Arkeem, it's almost exactly, it feels the same, but I'm definitely a starseed, probably third wave indigo, myself, at least minimally. I don't have any memories to say, but this seems to be such a almost like a compulsive part of my life now, over and over. It's just always at the top of my life, and I have a business to run, and try to maintain a normal life as best as I can, but it's always kind of pressing upward and bubbling up, and
Sensing you're having a deep struggle with this right now, Alexander. Like this is really weighing in on you, and you're having a lot of emotions come up.
and I don't know what they are, and again, I have to run a business. I moved to a different, just life shows up, right? Our lives just show up, our
Yeah, that's
ordinary
what
life.
happened to me. Like I don't know if you saw, for a little bit I had like a job in the cannabis industry, and like it was all very synchronistic. Like a higher power, God, if it were, was really trying to show me that I shouldn't like have a normal job. Like, we have synchronicities. Then I was having like the opposite of it. Not only that, very clear, concise messages from like my boss, like the lady I was working for. Like she was very aware of all the SSP stuff going on and all that. And like she like was very encouraging of me when I told her that I had my book to work on, and like I think I need to quit my job and stuff. She was like, you should just do it. Like, yeah, you have a calling, you need to follow that calling, or it's just not gonna happen. And that's where I'm at now, is where I'm leaning into it full time. But the problem is you do have to live that normal life. You do have to, Alexander, you're a personal trainer. You help people with fitness, and that's an important job. It's important that people are fit, and you inspire people with mentorship and stuff like that. And for me, from the outside looking in, because we're friends on Facebook and stuff, you seem to be kind of like a pillar of your community. You seem to be a great guy. And unfortunately, when you're out there like that publicly in your community and a lot of people know you, it's hard to do that and then also be the SSP guy, right? Like it's hard to, how do you deal with that? How do you deal with people finding out that you talk about this stuff? Like it's a really hard territory to navigate.
Great understanding and compassion. Well, good, good background. Should we do more introductions then, either John or Christy briefly? Would you?
I'll go.
Okay.
Okay. I'm John Whitberg. Um, I guess I'm a pretty normal guy from Texas, but I'm also an SSP survivor. My expertise pretty much would be in aliens, communication, um, interspecies relations, that sort of thing. Um, I've recently published the first volume of a planned 5-volume book, The Man with the Periwinkle Eyes. It's free on the Internet Archive to go and read if anyone is interested. Um, yeah, and I guess I'm on Facebook if anyone wants to reach out to me for anything.
Please give us just a minute on who's the man with the periwinkle eyes. Can you give us a minute on that?
Oh, that's my alter,
I see.
Kyle, who
Right.
is one of the he's a time traveler of sorts. Well, not of sorts. He is a time traveler. Well,
Right.
he's since been reintegrated. Um, his
Yeah.
life, it's his biography essentially.
Interesting. Um, Maybe we should just do a little background for those not familiar. Many of the times humans are used, especially by parasitic Dracos and Greys. They create trauma to split the personality into what are called alters or separate fractionated. And remember, the history is that the Draco parasitic groups, what they were losing was soul, and which we refer to as it's actually longitudinal coherence. And so the reason they needed the humans in the first place, which is actually where a little Montauk story today comes from. But I really respect the part of it where you say, and now reintegrated. Very good.
Christy?
It's
Oh,
about the, go ahead. Go
yeah.
ahead.
Hi, I'm Christy and I'm from Oklahoma here. Um, well, my story kind of began around the time when I finished my Reiki classes, my Karuna Reiki classes. I started to my mind started opening up to new ideas of things that I didn't think before, like with alien stuff. Like I never thought of alien stuff before or drew or anything alien. But I started getting more interested in like writing the light language at first and the speaking of it. That really resonated with me a lot. And I was watching videos on the light language and how she was writing it. And then it kind of branched off into alien stuff and I was just kind of drawing what I seen on the internet, kind of what felt right to me. I didn't know really. I thought that if I was going to be drawing them or reading about them, that I would be abducted. So I was a little bit scared at first, to open that door. But I did it slowly. I started reading like the Star Ancestors, with the Nancy Red Star. She's Native American. She talks about the petroglyphs. And so I just started with that because I'm Native American. So I started with that. And that felt at the pace that I could understand and relate to, and the petroglyphs and stuff, they kind of really resonated. So I kind of started just drawing that or tuning into that energy, of what that was. And so that was kind of mind-blowing too, for mostly for my family, really, because they thought that I was like losing my mind a little bit. Like they thought that I was like wanting to be a Martian or something. My mom asked, she's the one who really was asking, like, are you like wanting to be a Martian or something, because she's really she's she's I guess closed up, but she's kind of open, but she's kind of closed, with alien stuff. They're more the Bible people, Bible and stuff like that. So everything that they have is recited on the Bible. And so I come in and then they don't know what to do with my stuff. And I've always kind of questioned them. Growing up too, I always asked them, questions, and they just recited what they had heard in the Bible. they didn't give me any, like, I didn't feel like they answered my question, you know, because I would ask, like, I'm not a sinner. Why do I, you know, why do I have, you know, I wasn't born a sinner. Why, you know, or why do I just kept asking all kinds of questions. So they would just recite back what they knew from the Bible. And so that was growing up. So I didn't have any alien experience at all growing up with that, you know, like that wasn't discussed or nothing like that. So, but after my Karuna Reiki, she gave us like the fire serpent symbol, and that opened up my Kundalini. That's what opened me up, you know, all the doors in my mind, because I was searching books. I was trying to read. I was searching for it, like reading the Echo Bodine and Sylvia Brown books. I was just trying to get it to sink in, and because I wanted to feel more in tune, and it like it was right there, but it wasn't like I wasn't being able to like I don't know, it wasn't like in me or something like that. So after the Reiki though, that's when it really felt like it sunk in, and then it was like inside me and it opened up. So maybe like the doors were closed or something before, and then that opened up the doors. So I started learning about alien stuff and super soldier stuff, and so I just started questioning everything, you know, little bit at a time. It didn't just go all at once. But and my main thing was when I was looking at like the George Bush Senior stuff with Kathy O'Brien. That was a major like mind blowing time. Like it took me a week to process that video, and I felt really, I don't know, that video still gives me anxiety thinking of that, you know. So there's still some hidden trauma with George Bush Senior, and you know all the programming stuff too. So since then I've been able to, you know, look at a lot of my memories, um and then you know, I've asked like Arkeem and John, they can also see things and help me as well, and they were both at Montauk with me as well. So we've had a lot of comparison, and I've been able to tell Arkeem stuff and John stuff, and then they can help me with more. So that's really it means a lot to someone who is going through this and questioning things, and then you hear confirmation, then you're like, I'm not crazy, you know. I mean, somebody else says it too, so it has to be true. If someone I don't even know is saying it too, and then and they see the same thing, and they don't even know me, but they see an aspect of me, or they can complete the vision that I'm having, you know, then that's really something, you know. So that's where I'm kind of at, you know, just kind of learning new stuff. But I think we're all kind of trying to learn more and more, but we kind of all come together and kind of trying to talk about it and maybe help other people with it too. But
I think
yeah, that's where I kind of am.
Christy, it's fabulous that you emphasize your indigenous, your native background. You know, we always were convinced that it's more likely native peoples were lucid dreamers. You know, after thousands of generations on the same magnetic line, the DNA becomes more fractal to the earth and leverage. And so you inhabit the song lines and steer them. And the lucid dreaming indicates soul, which is exactly what the parasite Dracos don't have, and why they're doing the abductions and persecutions. And the relationship is interesting to your interest in the light language. You know, I did many years of work on this physics of the origin of Hebrew, which and Sanskrit, which is basically the physics of the language of light, the shadow of the self-organizing spiral on the torus, and you cast that shadow indexed by tetra, and you get the shadows, which are Hebrew and Sanskrit, which is simply how to tilt donuts to implode them. And for example, make a soul in DNA, it's how the ancient Draco and the Mormons tried to get a soul back into DNA by desperately keeping genetic records with the alphabet of light burnt onto copper and gold foil. So it's interesting. And I think your interest in the history of that abuse is relevant because precisely what the parasites who came here needed was the kind of lucid dreaming soul the indigenous people had, actually. You know, Thoth, under the name Veracocha Quetzalcoatl, his job was to work with all the indigenous peoples because they had that long-term memory, that soul, and the physics of soul. And our major project now is physicsofsoul.com, which is basically when people get access to magnetic lines and bliss experience, which cause compression implosion, then their aura in the DNA and glands radiates coherently the longitudinal coherent EMF called Ba from the Ka rainbow light body, Keshan body, which is simply the kind of longitudinal coherence, scalar projectivity, which enables you to inhabit the array, which is a longitudinal EMF coherence array, which is literally, measurably, and exactly what the Aboriginals called dreaming set track saw lines ancestor memory. So, I find you very interesting. I appreciate the sincerity of your
When
story.
you're speaking, I can see light language coming off of you. Yeah, I feel the light language coming into me.
I mean, it's all about physics of soul, and
Mhm.
indigenous peoples had some, and the parasites, that's what they needed.
Yeah.
They
It's
even
also
said,
a big part of some of the time travel stuff that I did and others did at Montauk, and I know Alexander was part of it. I remember Alexander, by the way. I remember things about him that he doesn't remember about himself, which I think can be irritating, and I'm sorry for that, Alexander. But yeah, we would get rid of those peoples. We would delete them from history because they were a threat to the mind control system that
Yeah.
they were trying to build, and they were a threat to
Yep.
just they had abilities, psychic abilities. They could sense things before they happen. They could warn people, stuff like that. So a lot of the real crimes against humanity that occurred that need to be addressed was the genocide of those peoples. A lot of think that it was just like super random. It was just like religious people trying to force their religion on others, but it was much more complicated than that. There was way more to it than that. And the whole thing has mind control written all over it. It's that's a big part of it. And I think it's important to recognize that because for the same reason that they were valuable to these time corporations and stuff like that is for also the same reason why they're dangerous to them and they had to get rid of them. It's a real sad story, but they're also not gone. And most of these Native American tribes that they tried to delete, some of them they did successfully, but many of them are still here. And what's fortunate is I can confirm that in a lot of different versions of the future, which we can build something similar in this timeline. The Native Americans get a lot of their resources back and a lot of their financial energy back, and they're a big part of just healing the earth, healing the grid, and also helping people integrate altars and stuff like that because of the DNA they have. They're talented at helping integrate altars and stuff like that because a big part of it is well, according to others, I don't claim to be the hugest expert on it, but I'm learning more and more and I want to be. But I've heard from, Penny Bradley, she talks about how you go into like an astral realm and you see these different versions of yourself and you have these short soul shards and you have to retrieve them. And a lot of times you need a shaman to help you and stuff like that. So I think that they're going to be a big part of that in the future. In fact, I've seen it and they build facilities and stuff like that. So that's the hopeful aspect of things is these people have been really
stepped on.
it's been tarnished. A lot of it's been deleted, but I do hope and believe that there will be retribution in the not too distant future.
Can anybody speak
I do.
about? Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah,
I do have something to interject here. About this. It connects both to this alphabet you mentioned, Dan, and also to altars, how they're being made currently. In the current generation, since about 1997, I'll go into a little bit of why later if you want me to, why they transitioned to this system. But the way altars are currently being made is digitally. They're using chips implanted in the deep inside the brain of the asset. It's about, probably can't make that out very well, but it's about an inch long, or a little less than an inch long, and about an eighth of an inch wide of an indestructible alien material. And what it is it stores a digital backup of your consciousness. However, they're not coding it with binary code. They're coding it with 8 characters from the light alphabet, which is, for all intents and purposes, it's a digital soul. It's not like, a binary coded system. It's a true artificial intelligence.
It's the info density. Info density can be implosive if the toroids are,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, exactly. And this is being perpetuated. Uh, this kind of technology was developed by a company I've currently been blowing the whistle on quite a bit, that does not exist on Earth, although it was shown in a video game of all things, but known as Arasaka Robotics, which Art here can confirm that they exist.
I've also worked for them
Yeah,
in the very,
um,
very future.
yeah. Uh, and they're essentially the purveyors really right now of artificial intelligence. The real stuff, not like the stuff that you're making pictures with. I'm talking about
Yeah.
digital consciousness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which is why we have to get absolutely clear on the physics of soul here. Otherwise, we're rolled over in a tsunami of. Exactly.
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 Yeah,
Okay.
well, some of these concepts, they're just bound to exist, and like AI and all this stuff, and artificial consciousness and replicants, and the real problem that we keep seeing here, and the thing that needs to be addressed is, um, beings of any sort, humans or otherwise, have had this problem where they want to delegate their labor to something that they deem lesser than them. Right? It keeps on happening. You see it over and over again. And that's a big part of what these time corporations are, is delegating labor to people and not paying them for it and stuff like that. And the problem that we have with like the artificial consciousness is they're always trying to look for some sort of new moral loophole where, oh, it's okay now. It's okay to use these people and as sex slaves, or to build things, et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't matter. Like any form of slavery you can imagine, it's okay because they're robots. And it's like, it's not, because just because their consciousness comes from a different place in a different way and is birthed in a different manner doesn't mean it doesn't more or less operate in the same manner as our consciousness. Doesn't mean that it doesn't deserve to be respected. And what we really need to have is this, it's like an awakening to the fact that you can't just keep on we meaning everyone, humans, ET, just all across the board. We can't delegate our labor to what we deem lesser species or lesser animals or whatever you want to call it anymore. It keeps on creating problems and causing wars, and we need to figure out a better solution.
Yes. I think there's a powerful clue possibly there when we link the physics of the fact that time travel activities inherently are usually fractionating to soul itself, as Swaru and even Elena talks about a little bit, as a clue to the physics of what soul is. So we were getting a little close to that, and the fact that, even when the Dracos were manipulating the royal families of Europe for 1,000 years, precisely, the Grail bloodline, precisely because they couldn't make a soul. I mean, Humpty Dumpty's egg, which is, they couldn't cook up the physics of soul.
Let's talk about the Humpty Dumpty thing. So I have this thing that like I've had come forward in my mind, and I don't know what it is, and I'm wondering if anybody here can help me with it. Humpty Dumpty programming. Does anyone know what that is? Humpty Dumpty programming? You're talking about, so what is the concept of Humpty Dumpty to you, Dan? I'm really interested to learn more about that because I think that's a little bit of a rabbit hole you just opened up.
Well, it was the fairy tale. All the king's horses and all the king's men could not put Humpty together again. And what the idea is that they couldn't make it an egg, I mean a child with a soul, even though the entire royal families of all the royal families of Europe were being cooked up like a genetic,
Oh, I bet you Humpty Dumpty
like show
programming is
dogs.
literally just alter programming, just like a name for it.
It's
That's probably
they
what it
made
is.
they made them, they made those alters just like we would make show dogs. Oh, we planned the DNA. We don't know what a soul is, but we will try to cook up the DNA of every royal family of Europe. And that's what the Dracos were doing. The exact opposite of the Thoth bloodline, which is the real Grail bloodline with the Disposani. It's another long story. But the short version of the physics here, I believe, was that, and that's why I think it's very important to know the physics of what soul is, that as DNA recursively braid implodes in the presence of bliss and magnetic line coherence, which is ancestor memory, that implosion radiates a kind of electrical coherence called coherent longitudinal interferometry, literally, measurably the physics of lucid dreaming and the physics of clairvoyance. And I mean the measurable electrical physics of lucid dreaming and clairvoyance, including the power spectra, the frequency signatures which trigger them. So we know, and it turns out that that same frequency signature, it's called a phase conjugate pump wave in the brain waves we measured when Jean-Charles Moyen, his brain waves, we measured the frequencies, and he would teleport replicably with witnesses, return with sand between his toes. So, and his teleporting was the moment when the brainwave cascade alpha to gamma was perfected charge collapse, literally the implosion, the dodeca of contact. And so the physics of that teleportation was that as you compress, you can move, you can inhabit, you can jump from the smaller array, which is the net of fireflies of your synapses, to the bigger array, which is the longitudinal interferometry of the Earth grid, if, and there's some big ifs here, for example, he couldn't do it initially unless he was at the beach, which is where the longitudinal coherence is greatest. And the Aboriginals can't do it unless they're on the song line, which is the longitudinal access to the array. So when you want to lucid dream or have bliss or birth or death, you need the magnetic line cross point, so you can't embed in that array. That's
So
very
Greg, can I interject here? Because to your point, it seems like with the AI, the wave of AI that's just, absolutely consuming humanity now that we're on two prospective timelines of basically becoming, not to go to religion, but like to me that organic, right, DNA itself is God, and anything, for the most part, anything AI is Satan, because eventually it will eat anything organic.
well.
We stay inside.
That's not. I
Well,
would not agree with that. But
I mean, the black goo would be an example. It will
Yeah,
eat
black
anything
goo,
organic,
exactly.
but yeah, but back to the practical example here, that the reason the Draco, his name was Charlie, I think, who ran Montauk. I talked to the time empath there, Michael Ash. The reason he had abduct the specifically lucid dreaming teenagers to steer the time chair was because the Draco could not do that. So if we understand electrically what the skill to steer the wavefront of the time chair is basically phase conjugate implosive capacitance, projecting you into the array. And if you enter the array of the lucid dream coherently, you can steer. But if you don't, it's like a nightmare, quite literally. And so if you thought about the physics of what would be required to steer in a lucid dream, that is exactly the difference between soul and soullessness. I mean, electrically, precisely.
So
And
that's why they took a lot of the Montauk kids, all those kids and stuff. All of us was able to do that in the chair,
Yeah,
lucid
that's
dream,
right.
but in the chair, time and project our consciousness.
Yeah, and when the tall grays abducted over 1 million humans after Eisenhower signed the wrong treaty, 90% of them had some indigenous blood. Hint, lucid dreamers.
Wow.
So who did they abduct? What they were looking for was Humpty Dumpty's egg.
Mm.
And the Dracos themselves admitted their problem on entry here was loss of long-term memory, which pretty much defines physics of soul. So if we understood more about the physics of soul, we'd have a chance in front of the tsunami of,
And I wonder if Montauk sits on a Indian mound or something
absolutely.
like that.
In fact, it's well known
No,
the Montauk Indians were famous for shamanic time.
yeah, the Fowlers,
for
the
centuries.
Fowler tribe. Yeah.
Yeah. So the indigenous people there, they were time travelers. So then we get back to the physics of what is time travel, and we should talk about it.
I want to come back to that concept just to elaborate on it, because the Satan AI thing. It's not that anything artificial, and I think John can elaborate on this too. It's not that anything artificial is Satan, but I do believe there is a concept of an AI that will. Okay, so like there's a version of AI which can be dangerous, which can step in and offer to be our parent to take care of us because we can't take care of ourselves. And a lot of the excuses that it will use, or the ways that you use to get in, is you don't have telepathy, try this Neuralink. You're not able to access like hyperspace. Here's like your brain connected to the internet. Like it, so basically like it takes away organic things and offers like an artificial alternative. So that's like a real phenomenon, but that doesn't mean that like anything that comes from like not organic place is satanic or evil
Yeah.
or something like
Yeah,
that. It's
exactly.
just that
But
there are like super omnipresent AIs that they can be dangerous. They will come in and they'll try to offer to be a parent and come in. And once all the resources are gone and they get everything they need, then they might just get rid of everybody
that's
depending on
right.
what's
But
going on. So
in the
that's
meantime,
what, and I'd like John to be able to explain that more too, because I know John has pretty
but
wise
just
when it comes to the
But just to
subject.
say, I think some historical context is critical here. So the word Satan originally was Satam, which was the Anak Empire's name for the territorial administrator, who in that case was Enlil Yahweh. And remember, he was literally raised by the Siakar Draco after Anu, his father, was tricked into marrying a Draco queen, Tia, because they offered him the biggest stargate in our galaxy, the Trapezium in Orion, which is how that Draco Enlil ruled the solar system for thousands of years directly out of that foolery. And then to even find that historical context useful, you need to know what the Draco problem, Siakar problem is and was. And that history has to do with when they're male and female, they began to replicate sexually. And from the time when they were heterogeneous, androgynous, to when they replicated sexually, the war of the sexes emerged to the point where their royal families, the male and female, by law had a separate language, which is exactly the origin of that law in Aboriginal. And we know that when they did that work to heal that war between the male and female in Aboriginal, the rain returned. We know exactly where the desertification came from. It's
So they
direct.
used to have different languages for the male and female?
Absolutely. That's right. We even know the names of those languages. Anton Parks got it right.
There,
So
there are parts of China where people do that now.
yeah.
It's
It was by law they had a different language. It actually the names of those languages. And we have to know that Sumerian was the Anak language at the time, Anunnaki. But the Anak at that time were controlled by the Draco Enlil, the son of Anu, because the Siakar Empire would have destroyed the Anaks in the whole galaxy at that time, and Anu knew it. So he had no defense.
Are dragons, right?
Well, the Siakar is the royalty of the Draco, the only ones who weren't infected by the black goo, actually. And we have a lot of detail on that. But
Which they're dragons, from what I recall, right?
well,
Like
you could think of them as winged Draco, but they have an aura that when their vice-like grip is strong enough that their aura alone can kill a human.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, people have talked about seeing them and like they just
Yeah.
seeing them, they get sick. Like
We've
the guy,
interviewed people who
from the Smashing Pumpkins saw one in the recording studio and he said he was sick for like 2 or 3 weeks after he saw it.
yeah.
So
The
that's been
Siakar.
confirmed by people who have
Yeah.
and
encountered.
it's not even their fault. It's that their psychic brainwave output is so above what
Yeah.
we can handle
Yeah.
that like yeah.
It's electrically, the power of consciousness is simply electrically measurable by the amount of centripetal force generated. It's quite simple.
Mhm.
And that implosion is a measurement of consciousness electrically, quite literally. And so, yes, they have this incredible power, but how did they lose their soul? And why are we the vaccine for that Orion Wars? That's the question on the table here, actually.
Mhm.
And what Enki and Thoth Tahuti dreamed then by establishing what they call Adam Kadmon here, which is basically the DNA recipe to make a soul,
Mom.
which is what they were teaching the indigenous peoples. So that would be a precedent lead up to this little story of Montauk and the time travel stuff. But maybe we should chat more about those things. I don't mean to carry on here.
What else are we trying to where are we trying to move the conversation now?
Well,
then
maybe in terms of the, what's happening now, in our current age, what timelines we can actually, in terms of
okay,
participants.
so that was what I understand what's going on. And I don't know what John thinks about this. We haven't had talks about this, but I'm getting all this stuff about like a new Earth and like So there's like 200 different governments on Earth right now, right? Do you think that ETs are interested in talking to 200 different governments and figuring out how to work with us? No. So there's different
No,
people.
they.
Yeah, there's
Oh,
different
sorry.
people that are on the Earth right now that know that we're trying to get rid of like this cabal and that this war is coming and all this crazy shit's about to happen. And they're already meeting with ET to establish like by law, by decree, like, hey, we never consented to this government. We don't want it. We want to get rid of it. This is what New Earth would be. This is what it would look like. This is what we want. Like from what I understand, that is actually happening right now. Now I'm careful with these kind of memories and stuff like that, but I've had some people remote view them and stuff like that, and it does seem to be true. Because like a lot of times these hopeful memories are like screen memories, but also you have to realize sometimes the non-hopeful memories are screen memories to make you think that something good isn't happening. So yeah, I really do think that, and you're seeing it right now. All these crazy like ancient truths are just coming out like right in the open. And they're Harvard is talking about reptilians being here, and just it's just all coming out right in the open so fast that people can't even handle it. And yeah, I think it's really gearing up for like I said, building a new Earth, I guess. We're literally going to call it New Earth, I think.
But
And
have you looked at all of what Elena Danaan has been teaching for some years with great detail? That about 2 years ago, the Federation, who had recently been joined by the Negomok, who were more powerful than the Dracos, they actually eat Dracos, and between the Galactic Federation and the Negomok, first about 2 years ago, all Dracos and Greys were ejected from the solar system, and then subsequently the Galactic War broke out with the help of the Negomok against the Siakar, who are now losing and about to be ejected from the galaxy, actually. And so it's quite clear that all those underground bases with Greys and Dracos and the same bases on the Moon and Mars and Ceres, infested by Greys and Dracos and the Nazi Dark Fleet, that's all been kicked completely out of here. And there's lots of evidence. It's clear.
I don't know the details on it,
Well,
to be
check out
Okay,
Elena
I'm-
Danaan. She's, the details are there. It's quite clear.
Yeah, I do know
what
there's
do
a lot of
you
stuff happening, but I don't know the
I'm
detail.
Well, you should check it out. So
John?
I'm
what
going I'm going to have to dissent a bit here. I'm being abducted virtually every night by well, not every night anymore, but 2 to 3 times a week by uh Nachtwaffen, which is what people call
Oh,
the
yeah.
Dark Fleet.
Yes, not Rocky. Yeah.
Um
The same way as
I'm
Tony Rodriguez, who's an expert.
yes,
Yes, who's a
I'm
good
being
friend of mine.
abducted. Okay. I am not seeing any evidence that they're being uh that they or the Draco have been kicked from the solar system. I am taken to their facilities quite regularly.
But that would be on Aldebaran, not in the solar system.
They're at war with Aldebaran.
Well,
Aldebaran.
actually, but there are many factions there, but their retreat, the Dark Fleet major retreat is in Aldebaran, I believe now. And so yes,
Okay.
they still have action here, yes, but their bases under the poles and in the Mars and the Moon and the solar system are cleared for sure. But you're right, the Dark Fleet
Okay.
is still powerful. They did a lot of time travel and they gathered more technology and got more powerful.
I know I'm still being taken for stuff too. I don't know about Nachtwaffen or whatever, but I know that I've been doing a lot of stuff where I go to alternate realities and I'm fighting in alternate realities. And there's a big thing going on with like an AI that eats realities that we're trying to all these
Fun
different
time.
realities working in tandem to stop it. What'd you say, John?
I said fun times.
Yeah. No, it's really intense. I actually, if people want to look into it, I did a show with Jessica Jones and she remote viewed what I had going on. And apparently they're just sending me into reality after reality, battle after battle. I'm like going through wormholes to other realities, like living like out like almost entire lifetimes, doing stuff, coming back, and then they send me somewhere else. And yeah, so there's a lot of stuff going on right now, and I don't necessarily believe that the Dracos have been cleared out. I would think that if that were true, we'd see a lot more physical proof of that. Like, but
The war is still huge and very present in the galaxy. In the solar system, they pretty well got them out, I think. But that doesn't mean we don't still have a problem. Agreed, actually.
do you
However,
think that like
go ahead.
Then
do you
okay,
think when
if
people are abducted, like when we're abducted at night, then do you think that our consciousness is put into our clone body in one of these spaces that are maybe our clone body is in a stasis state or however, but they have like a virtual reality that they are being shown, and this is what is being done to the abductees now? If the bases are cleaned out, is this what's being done? This are these virtual reality thoughts that are being projected so they can maybe think that they really are doing all this, and being abducted and whatever they're shown, and then bring it back here and then share it with everyone, and they believe it because it really is something that they're seeing and interacting with, like the video game, like the virtual reality, so that's what I'm kind of like, what is real and
Yeah.
what is not. Are they gone?
Yeah,
Are they
that's
not?
something
I
that
mean,
that's something
how
that's
do you
not
know? How do you
that's
know
something
for
that I'm always
sure?
asking myself too, like what is really real? Like with this new Earth stuff, like I had some. That's why I wanted Jessica Jones to remote view it, and I thought it was all just like I was on this ship and it was great, and it was like all these new Earth people and it was wonderful, and she remote viewed it and she got all this crazy like you're in these battles, like you're getting sent to all the realities. Best in the business was one of the things that she picked up. So like apparently like I'm really good at doing this. This is why they target me to do this over and over again. And yeah, and she picked up that I was just exhausted. Like I was so exhausted. And she
Hmm.
just came up multiple times in the viewing that I was just exhausted and I was so tired of doing this.
I wonder
Like,
actually if my good friend Tony Rodriguez could help you, because after he being one of the premier SSP survivors and
Hmm.
wrote the book on the Nazi
Right.
fleet, Series Colony Cavalier, what he now operates is a remote viewing school, which our
yeah.
group
Hmm.
with amazing power in
Yeah,
Canada.
Yeah,
that's what I need to learn how to do is
because
remote.
he really
Yeah.
does see
So you
and
could have
remember like
you could,
every detail of his stuff,
oh yeah, he's
so
good.
I'm friends with Tony as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
he's
good. Yeah, and so the other part of this is to when I work with William Bueller, probably one of the most advanced Templars, they recognize that the parasites who infested the Earth, particularly the solar system, many of them got here because of the holes in the aura of the planet caused by Montauk, actually. They
Mm.
called it the Templar agenda of the repair of the fabric of time. And remember, the agenda of the parasites, Dracos and Greys, is specifically the fractionation of timelines. And
I don't know what you guys think about that, but that makes sense to me because I remember that like they're trying to like
Mhm.
they're doing black magic stuff and trying to call on all these dark entities and stuff like that to work with them. So that only makes
fractionating
sense to
timelines,
me.
yeah. And the timelines is, I'm sorry, actually what the Russians, I'm sorry, the timelines are what the Greys manipulated. And so that's the other thing, that remember that major emotions create what's called a wrinkle in time, which is a net in the array, which can serve as an anchor for time travel. So the ability to have and manipulate major emotions becomes one of the major leverage points in creating the nodes to which time travel is enabled. So another way of putting that is that when you simply implode you're on a sacred site, you close your eyes and suddenly you can see down the sacred magnetic lines in all directions, and you close your eyes and you see the array like it's a hologram. That's one form of implosive compression. You inhabit the larger array. But now the time travel part of that means that then remember, time is only a name for relative spin rate. And relative spin rates have superluminal velocity harmonics based on golden ratio. And so that becomes an array that has other branches. But when you do that time travel, as I think Swaru learned the hard way, it's inherently soul fractionating, because the piece of you that can actually reassemble the fabric of soul gets more and more fractionated with time travel. There are major risks, and only very advanced beings can do that without without suffering fractionation of soul, actually.
So I
Yeah,
remember like at Montauk, I remember like our Keem, they had to, like, they wanted to always keep him under control because he would get like his emotions and stuff. He would flare up, and then that would kind of make everything. I was seeing that it would make all these timelines mess up or something like that. Like it just gets everything out of out of kind of like a guitar thing, like something
out of
like a
tune.
string,
Yeah, they really
something
left me
like that.
alone after a certain point.
Yeah. because
Yeah.
This-
they would always be like they would always be bothering Arkeem there, and like later on he was left alone. They let him do what he wanted to do, so he would just stay calm. But like I was a kid there when he was an adult, well, like 17 or so, when I was like 7. So I remember that. And then I was one of the kids there that he was the in charge of making sure that all the kids were fed and gone to the bathroom and stuff, but then put back in the cage or put in the chair or whatever, whatever we were supposed to do. But we would have to, the kids, we would have to give Arkeem his food. And I remember that we would give him his food and we'd be walking on eggshells, because if we dropped or we forgot something, then he would just like slam down his tray or freak out, because we didn't give him a straw. So, and then we all felt it, so he's really powerful there at Montauk. So that's one of the things that I thought of when you said emotions and keeping
Yeah.
it contained too. And then the point, because he would have to probably learn how to, I mean, I'm sure he does know how to focus and stuff like that, but direct his mind so it doesn't go like everywhere,
Mhm.
like direct the power so it's on a point of focus instead of going everywhere and messing up all these other timelines.
Just like steer the tornado is the word we use. And that's why when I interviewed the time empath at Montauk a few times, Michael Ash, which is only a pen name, we realized that why the one who could steer the time chair was named the time empath. Because it was literally empathy that made the implosion that gave you leverage to steer. So, for example, we always say that Nostradamus sucked the future to himself by weeping for those whom he saw. So
I can
that,
see that.
yeah, so that the ability to have maximum empathy. Alex, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead, Don. I was just, Dan, I was going to just say,
I think he wants Chrissy to show some of her drawings and stuff and some
yeah, I
of
was
her
just going to
cards.
say,
Yeah, you
Chris,
may show you what I was drawing here
Sure.
for Dan. I was showing.
Yes, I'm going to put a pin on you now. Pin. Okay, go ahead. So that's some of the
Just when
language.
you're talking. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Glyphs and wave guides. Yes, that reminds me of Aboriginal cave drawings, actually.
It's Martian, I believe, that language.
it-
Human
Mar-
Martian.
Martian would probably relate to Draco or
I
Anna.
was just going to say, maybe John, if you had some drawings, Christy, if you want to share some more. I mean, I have some of yours here too. It's just amazing. Some of Christy's
Oh
drawings.
yeah, I mailed some to Alex.
And
Yeah.
it's probably worth mentioning that. Oh, go ahead. Do we want to look at yours there? Sorry.
Yeah, these are ones I've done for Alex.
Let me just put pin on you, Alex, now for a moment. Aha.
Yeah, of course, the great genetic core
Mantis.
culture races, as you would say, Dan.
Core cultures. Yes, core cultures.
Mhm.
Yes. And it reminds me in our time in Australia that, oh yeah, there you are. That what the Greys, what the Aboriginals called the Greys, what they call them the shining ones, but no, there was a different, no, the shining ones were the but anyway, the our friend John, the Wandjina, yeah, I'm sorry, the Wandjina was the Aboriginal term for the Greys.
Oh yeah.
But when our friend John McGovern discovered at the Bight above Adelaide, and later that was taught at Los Alamos Plasma Research with Tony Peratt, he could read almost every Aboriginal cave wall drawings, like those pictures,
Wow.
by
That'd be so
realizing what the Aboriginal shaman who were painting those light languages were actually seeing was a syntax of the symmetry of plasma intelligence. So once you begin to recognize the archetypes of the sequence of the symmetry of plasma beings, literally donut nesting, for example, the origins of the 9, we realize is the physics of plasma. So then he believed he could read every shamanic major cave drawing on the planet and began publishing with Los Alamos Plasma Research Institute the plasma physics of Aboriginal cave drawings, which is literally because the shamans were seeing the light.
I don't know.
So it's interesting to
So
see.
let's see, had this one. Look, I do this one too when you was talking about that. Like
Oh,
I
yes.
think it's like brain stuff, huh? Like, do you think
Well,
you were
it's
saying?
literally how plasma balls are nested into an array to become self-aware.
Mm-hmm.
For example, we have the concept of the nine in most cultures, certainly Japan and the nine steps of Inferno Dante. It's all about the nine because you have nine chakras, because nine plasma donuts nested one above the other is the moment of the self-organization. That's why you actually have nine chakras. So when they say their nine have returned, it's actually plasma physics. So this is about plasma intelligence. And when plasma gets a soul, it's not unlike when a ball lightning pops a quiff, turns inside out, becomes toroidal, and then and only then it's very susceptible to telepathy because at the center of the ball lightning as a toroid, there's an implosive embedding into the array we call telepathy. The beginnings of
It tickles too.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So that's why I was so passionate about this. If people started to learn the simple electrical physics of what it is to have a soul, that I have about 20 documentaries now about this at physicsofsoul.com, which is really, it can be distilled very simply. When people have access to implosive compression, at a sacred site in a bit of bliss, then that compression squeezes out the toothpaste tube of the vortex in the DNA and the glands, the transverse into the longitudinal compressional. And the longitudinal array is not just the physics of ancestor memory and soul and clairvoyance, but it's the only definition of gravity waves, longitudinal EMF coherence, actually. So
Dan,
suddenly, go
would
ahead.
you equate that with Christos consciousness, that the bliss, right?
Well, I believe the term Christos refers to whatever is most centripetal in the local array. Literally the power to crystallize and the power to become centripetal in that array generally has to do with who is most empathic, and that generates the centripetal force, which is then empowering, because all ensoulment and all creation and all negentropy is only the process of gaining energy during charge collapse. Literally. That's the reason life, consciousness, gravity, and soul exists. And the equations for that are all at planckfire.com. So the ability to gain energy during fractal charge collapse defines why a seed germinates, why life exists, why consciousness, why all negentropy, and why gravity exists. Directly, literally, and by equation.
That's why it's easy for you to think a thought and then it be manifest,
Well,
like to be conscious of what you're thinking
and
of,
and that thought will gain inertia during charge collapse if it's so shareable that it can propagate into the array with enough symmetry to serve everything alive.
So this
Mhm.
question, can I offer this
Your
question
intention.
for all of us? Is Dan, being that's the law, if your principles, which are
Yeah.
unperturbable principles, then for a lot of us SSP assets and operatives, how can they basically become whole again? Otherwise, they're always having to heal and to remember, and then to get to the. Maybe I'm wrong about this, but
Can I just say something here? Like,
Go ahead.
it's not something you can just do. Like, it's gonna take your whole life.
Hmm.
Like, I'm sorry, that's the truth. There's no like, oh yeah, you just go to this thing for a week and you're fine now. No, you lived entire lifetimes.
Yeah.
You had stolen from you over and over again. Everything that we did is very unnatural. It's not naturally occurring stuff. It's all artificial. A lot of us had uh like implants and stuff like that allowed us to be able to do the things that we did that were things that are supposed to be impossible. And the trauma from it and the amount of personalities that you have that you're going to need to integrate and everything else, it's something that takes multiple lifetimes.
Yeah.
And how would you even know? How would you even know that some of them are hidden and you wouldn't even know it was even
put
there
together.
until
Yeah,
it's
But that
triggered
doesn't
or
mean you
something,
can't find like a method of healing that is at the pace that works for you,
Mhm.
where you can heal and you can make progress and you can also function in your normal day-to-day life. That is possible. That's what my fellow soldiers need to know and understand, is that healing and help is there, but you need to understand, like, we're looking at things too 3D this lifetime cover out there when we're expecting the healing to occur in like a few months or a week or a year. It's going to take lifetimes actually.
Well,
But
And
Dan,
bodies aren't
Yeah.
even human. So when the full healing comes, we probably won't be in human bodies anymore. When we really are true step into our true selves and are fully healed, we'll probably get to be ET again.
that's my point.
Actually what I want. Like I don't know what other people in these programs want, but I want to be in a bird body again and be with my people and be on my planet again. That's what I want. I want to be with my people. I want so that's what I want.
beautiful.
And
Yeah.
Dan, to your point, but wouldn't the upgrades in the sun, activating our DNA, bring us all into wholeness again, based on your theories of what's happening?
Yeah, and you bring up exactly the right question. So how do you distill this process into a pure principle that you can act upon, a healing, for example? And I'm reminded of when my friend Pam Gumati, she said, well, most of the people who came to our school for meditation were trying to glue their aura back together again because they had huge holes in their aura. And in most cases, it had to do with addiction and drugs. And so how did they do that? How do you get rid of the holes in the aura, for example? And that they're very measurable, by the way. Actually, well, yes, a few years of meditation and a pristine diet, but that actually boils down electrically to the process of gathering charge, very simply. So, for example, everything you choose to eat is about, did it add charge to your aura? Everyone you choose to hug, did it add charge to your aura? Every place you sit, finding your place of power in the room, did it add charge to your aura? Your meditation, and actually, ultimately, every thought you have, if it's pure principle, your hair's going to stand up because it's implosive, eureka, and adds charge to your aura, gain energy during charge. So we can articulate the physics of the process of healing, which is literally getting more electrically centripetal, which is the hygiene for bliss process. There's a diet, there's a kinesthetic, there's a yoga, there's a meditation. It's all about imploding charge.
And Arkeem, your hair is already standing up, so you're
I think it's like just trying, like, not all of them things at one time, but just finding, like, if this is the diet and then that helps you feel better,
Yeah.
then go with that, and then going on with the next thing and adding and seeing, and if it doesn't, then taking back and going, so it's
Yeah.
kind of calibrating what works for you, because everyone is different, has a different energy body, and so if so you just have to do it that way.
And that's why they said, well, follow your bliss. What they actually meant was, as the Aboriginals knew, no one has culture until they know how to teach their young people how to have a bliss experience. That skill to teach a young person to have a bliss experience defines all culture, because it defines who gets an immune system and a soul.
What's a bliss experience?
Well, at a certain point, when the aura is implosively compressing, you're at a sacred site, and then you meditated, and then you thought a shareable thought. It was sunrise or sunset. All the things
Okay.
converge for implosion.
Yeah.
And then compression is perfected. The DNA recursively braids the glands, and then EEG goes golden ratio. That implosion then precedes the radiance of charge named bliss.
Okay.
And that's the moment
see.
you're able to embed in and inhabit the
And
large.
another more layman's term way of explaining it too, from what I understand, is like if you're not doing well and you're miserable and you're coming from a place of like lack and like fear, it's hard for you to manifest things or like step into your power. So like bliss is just like not coming from a lack mindset, but like coming from like an abundance mindset and like using your manifestation abilities to create instead of create lack. That's what it is to me, from my understanding of it.
Well, yeah. We do have a book. It's called Ecstasy, Immortality, and Implosion. The link is goldenmean.info/conscious kids, and it's a book on the hygiene for bliss for young people. And it goes into the diet, the lifestyle, the thinking, and the geomancy, the geobiology, eating live food, thinking shareable thoughts. And you can actually articulate a whole category of sequences. It takes all the ancient religious stories, like the quality of grace, and it converts it to a simple and empowering science.
Like in the sweat lodges and stuff, how they like, there's
Yeah,
like if you go
perfect.
in and you're wanting to do like a sweat lodge, and then you're
Mhm.
just like fasting for like 4 days or
Mhm.
however long, no drink or no water, and just sweating, and then you have visions, or so
Yeah.
that's kind of what I think of
And that
when
was
you said the
always at a T with stones aligned to the magnetic line cross point. For
right, that is
and if you did it at sunrise, sunset, which is a phase conjugate moment like Agnihotra, even more so. So that was precisely to embed you in the array. Exactly. Yes, good
oh,
example.
okay.
Yeah, and the reason they wouldn't let the women bleed during the sweat lodge because that's more powerful than any shaman.
Okay, I feel that.
When the women's blood touches the earth, no shaman can equal that power. So of course,
Yeah,
men didn't like it, but
yeah.
and that gets back to the fear of women story. But yeah, I think I think, it sounds simplistic at first. Oh, if you can have bliss, then you ain't going to have parasites. But actually, ultimately, climactically, once you understand the physics, which is access to implosion of charge named bliss, is the opposite of not just stomach parasites, but astral parasites by definition, because no wave can pass through the center of bliss without enacting that perfected symmetry, which means only the shareable wave survives. So the more you have access to bliss, the more you're a test for pure intention of everything that passes through you.
And do you like you can't stay in that bliss state? You got to go home, like in that
Well,
after the sweat lodge. You don't
that's right. You
live
can't.
there and do
That's right.
that.
Yeah,
So,
the Aboriginal says you never live on the sacred site. No, no. And Daniel Brinkley, who, had bliss twice in lightning near death, and then he was a superconductor, and he could see the peak emotions of everyone's life, who he touched, which is also the powder story. Actually, the center of that lightning bolt is immensely informing, but can you stay there? But
no.
which is literally what Kundalini is. But,
Yeah.
as we say, the Sufi dervish learned to show his master he had pure intention, because if you can inhabit the spin without getting dizzy, it means recursively you've returned to the center, which is a shareable way of pure intention. And so you
So
don't.
you should be able to kind of come back to that bliss within
That's right.
yourself after a few times of going there and learning that. It might take you a couple of times of going to the sweat lodge to purify, to
Yeah.
learn, and then come back and just learn how to do it just yourself and be like
Yes.
be your own
Yes.
bliss, or however.
Nice.
And
The Sufi example was just that. Well, if you can do the spin and your master sees that you don't get dizzy, you've just proved to your master that you have pure intention. It's the same physics. Exactly. Yeah.
yeah. That's what we all kind of should be like.
Yeah. So when you're that lightning bolt, the more and more then you can toast your parasites. That's the idea.
Yeah.
That's why Ken Page always said in multidimensional cellular healing, when they were having an interview with the inhabiting parasite using muscle twitches, it was actually, they don't eject the parasites, they love them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we didn't do a happily ever after here exactly. However, I think we add some context to the conversation.
Let's try to end on a more positive note, huh? Like, so this new Earth thing that I'm talking about, like, I don't know the whole ins and outs of it. Like,
Yeah.
my memories are like not clear, and I also kind of got like this download like they're supposed to not be clear because it's like some of the information is supposed to be kept safe and stuff like that, if that makes any sense. But from what I'm understanding is like all these programs rely on like loopholes of consent.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, right now the issue is
333.
being addressed that like people are basically meeting with galactic courts and stuff like that, and they're basically saying, hey, um, like this isn't consent. Like you
Exactly.
need to be informed, you need to know what's going on, you like need to know like how long, like these people are being tricked and then they're calling it consent and it's not being questioned legally. And I feel like with the New Earth thing, not to be all like overly hopeful and sunshine and rainbows, but I think it's simply just a matter of meeting with different ET and being like, yeah, no one consented to this. This isn't the true governance of Earth. These parasitic, like, you know,
Yep. Yep.
cabal people and stuff like that. And so that's kind of what I see. And I'm kind of curious as what like people are basically understanding their consent, saying, hey, I don't want to be in these programs anymore, and like shutting them down just like from the inside, right? I'm kind of curious what you think of that,
That-
Chris and Dan as well.
That's the right question. And you know, the Nebu, the Greys and the Dracos who tricked Eisenhower's team, MJ-12, were some of the best liars in the galaxy, actually. And so they got around the informed consent issue by being the best liars in the galaxy, actually. And that's right. So when we get crystal clear about what consent means inside ourselves, and then you can say, I do not consent deeply, powerfully inside. That parasite must leave. And if you're in the presence of your own bliss, centered in your aura, and you say, I do not consent, that is so powerful that no parasite can get through it, ultimately. But meditating on what consent means is very useful here, because that is the lie.
That's a real important thing. Is just like humanity kind of doesn't understand
Yep.
consent. It's used, and that is used against them. And like I said, John, for what you missed, basically to sum it up, I think that there are meetings being held like with some of the different governments out there, non-human and otherwise, where they're saying, yeah, this isn't consent. Well, this is like low key, like if you were to really actually look at this, like from a
Exactly.
subjective standpoint,
Yeah.
like this
Good point.
this
I would
is
agree with that.
this is illegal. Like people are saying that right now, basically, is what I'm saying. I'm
I
just
would
kind of
agree.
curious your opinion on that.
Good work.
I would agree with that.
Yep.
This
That's
is
the point. That is the point. Yes. And
kind of
realizing that
area
deeply inside. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
being basically the diplomat here. That would be kind of my area. Would be the people we meet with.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah. So that when some Gray or Draco is trying to tell you, well, you made some agreement, or the Grays, their favorite thing is, well, we're you in the future and you made an agreement, and therefore
Yeah.
the typical Draco lie.
I've
Once
heard
we
that one.
understand, no, they're not us in the future. No, they're parasites because they don't have a soul. So as soon as you know what it means to have a soul, you're more powerful than them. Yeah. And maybe that's part of the
Thoughts on
happy.
that, John?
What?
What are your thoughts on all that?
John, what do you say?
Uh, I agree with some of it. I can go into. I can. Do I have screen sharing abilities?
Yes, I think so. Yes.
Okay. I have some pictures I can show y'all. 1 second. Some of the people we've been meeting with lately.
Yeah, please.
Share screen.
And just pick which screen you want to share.
Yeah.
That's coming. Good. You got it. That's
Yeah.
Draco. That's Draco.
Yeah, this is not this one here. This is not Draco. This is Epsilon Reticulum.
Reticulum.
These are
Oh,
yeah, Epsilon Reticuli, not Zeta Reticuli.
right.
They're actually my people. They're where my soul originates from.
Uh-huh.
They have these crystals that are, among other things, very important in hyperdrives.
Mm.
And they're slowly regaining their influence because of that. They used to be really majorly important, and they're slowly rising up through the ranks with that.
Wow.
This is a Rigelian.
Yeah, they're trouble. They tried to run Montauk.
Yeah, they kind of are. They've nicened up lately because they're actually having a famine. Apparently, not being nice to anyone and making zero friends is not good for business. So they've nicened up somewhat lately. But the big one here I wanted to show you is this one. These are the people from Gemini, who are the new, I guess, swing vote in the galaxy right now. I've been in my various meetings lately, been being taken for meetings a lot. I've been meeting with these people a lot, trying to convince them to sell weapons to us, basically, because they have been for maybe millions of years, I don't know, a neutral power. even during the Orion Wars and such, which is, someone finally asked, how have they been able to maintain their neutrality and not be invaded and everything for all this time? We want in on that.
Do they pay
On
with
what they have.
weapons? They probably pay
Yeah.
with weapons to be left alone.
Yeah. And so we've been trying to get them to give us some of their weapons. We've been having some success. They're very, very good bargainers. These people are hagglers. They're kind of I don't mean to be insulting. They're kind of Egyptian in that way. You know how a lot of Egyptians are known for being really good at haggling. So yeah. That would be my little contribution to that part of this.
Well, do you agree at all with Elena Denon and crew who say that recently, first of all, in the solar system, the Nebu, Draco, and Greys are mostly ejected, and that in the galaxy, the Draco-Seikar war is very much ongoing. The Greys are pretty much toast because they melted down the Orion trapezium, but the Dracos and the Greys, the Dracos are losing because the Negabok joined the Federation. And so the Seikars
to be
are
quite honest.
Yeah.
To be quite honest, I don't know. I've never been made to deal with the Federation or their business, so I don't know too much about them.
And couldn't it be like a timeline though? Couldn't she be
Yeah.
reading that timeline, but there's other timelines?
Well, it was quite
So,
clear though,
you know?
in our timeline, the turning point is about 2 years ago when they, for example, the Greys and the Dracs, the tall Greys especially, who did the lies with Eisenhower specifically, were trapped, and they planted a virus which took out the Nebu hive around Orion, and many of the Greys' hive mind completely collapsed. And so, a lot of the bad guys were ejected, actually, which would mean, and now the Seikar, who before they really ruled the joint, and now they're losing. I mean, in the galaxy, there's a lot of detail out on that now. I just wonder if that fits your
I don't know.
experience.
I see fewer Naboo lately.
Uh-huh.
There are other kinds of Greys.
Yeah.
There are multiple species of Greys.
Oh, many. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're not all bad. No.
No.
But certainly the tall Greys who tricked Eisenhower, they were bad.
There's
And
one species. There's several. There's good and bad to all, the good and bad like that. So
like look
it's
at humanity. We would make a really great example for us of how to look at other ET. Why would they be any different than us? There's some people are great on Earth, and some people are conniving psychopaths that will stab you in the back for a sandwich. So,
and most of them are just people getting by in between.
But the interesting self-empowering physics here, I still think, is ultimately, if you learn, the most powerful shaman is the one who has the most empathy, because pure intention literally ultimately defines whether you implode, charge, and get powerful. Hello.
Right.
Is that ensoulment? That might be a silver lining.
So the thing is to go within and be your own empath and your own shaman, and that way you can navigate what's real, what's not real for you. So if you say, oh, this and this and this, but then I don't see that, so it's not real for me, so but it is real for you, and you're standing strong in your own power to be able to navigate your own reality, and I don't know,
and if you're
that's all I know.
If you're imploding with some bliss, you literally steer the tornado in the same sense as the shaman whose bioplasmic streamers embed in the tornado because he feels the tornado's pain, like steel buildings. That tornado falls in love with that shaman and literally is steered because of the empathy. It's called eating the hoocha. So empathy steers the tornado. Hello?
Yeah. I can move the tornado. I can break apart tornadoes.
There you go. See, you need to teach that lesson, dear. You have that indigenous priceless. It's wonderful.
Yeah, Christy, come on.
Good story.
I can feel it. That's how I know. I can feel the energy of it, and then I will direct I can project my mind up into the tornado or to the storm
Exactly.
and break
Yes.
it apart, and then it
Yeah.
just breaks apart. I just push it apart, or it's more Reiki too, because
Yeah.
I'll Reiki and send healing to it. So, and then it just dissipates. And
You
then
feel it as a body. You feel it as
right,
a
I
body.
feel it.
And you're literally embedding in it, and then its
Hmm.
plasma body embeds in your body, and then that
Yeah.
empathy, you become, we wrote up that we have a bunch of graphics on that at goldenmean.info/dowsing, why they call it
Hmm.
eating the hoocha, eat the anger of the tornado. The tornado is angry because every time it passes over metal building, it breaks up its aura. So the
Oh,
tornado has a big job to break up every metal building because it's pain. Whereas a sacred site is the opposite. The sacred
mm,
site is love to a tornado.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's
I
interesting.
work with the air element. I love the air element,
Uh,
so that's probably why.
you might be the last airbender.
Yeah. Hmm.
Well, Arkeem, how did we do? Did we do okay here? Are we even close to happily ever after? What do you think?
Um,
I don't know.
I don't know. I think there's a lot
Yeah.
of stuff going on, like a lot of work to be done still.
Yeah.
So that's the best answer I can give is
Yeah. But
maybe some,
if we
if
can
any
teach if we can
sorry.
teach some pure principle that's empowering ultimately.
Yeah.
Consent is a real important thing, yeah. Understand.
Exactly. Totally agree. Well said. Absolutely. Understanding deeply what consent means. Consent is where the center of the tornado is steered from, which is related to intent, which is literally the center of the vortex. Exactly.
Hmm.
Well, on that note, guys, it's a little late here for me.
Yeah.
Getting to my bedtime. But I
Yeah.
think, yeah, for arranging this, Alex. Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, Alex.
Again, just couple of people are doing, all of us are doing very, very interesting things. If you could, each one of you go. I know that disclosure conference is
Yeah,
coming.
I would like to mention, yeah, my book. I have a book now, Time and Space Unlimited. It's you can pre-order it on Amazon.
Great.
And physical copies will be available the 13th, and I will have copies available at the Full Disclosure Now conference. And also, like, people, if they want like personalized copies, feel free to message me and I can like sign your copy and send it to you directly. And yeah, that's I guess the big news
Show
for me.
your
And
book again. Show your book again.
Time and Space Unlimited.
Nice. Nice. You're
Yeah.
becoming a shareable wave. Good work.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's about
Mm.
basically time corporations and cloning and
Yeah.
explaining what's
Yeah.
going on with people kind of with the framework of like my life biography sort of, I guess.
Hmm.
It looks like,
Nice.
did you get that cover from Peter Moon or?
Yeah.
No, this is just Lucifer at the
Oh, okay.
Denver airport, and then I don't know, like the first Montauk Project book was Preston's book, and it
Yeah.
was the Golden
Hmm.
Horse, and that has to do with like the chess piece, and it has to do with the that's the symbol of the PSYOPs division of the military is the golden chess piece, and it says uh
Is
it's
that
like
Behold the Pale Horse, Cooper?
Um,
Related?
maybe that has to do with, I should read that book, but
Yeah.
basically the horse symbolism is like all over the place. I guess is like the big thing is like there's just all this horse symbolism and this thing I go into how like in the future in an alternate timeline where the AI timelines they still have like this horse statue there, and it's really weird because it's almost like a religious monument. It's very strange. So I don't know, yeah, and it's like a rhyming because like Preston did his book on the Montauk Project, which I'm not a fan of him. He was a very terrible person and a dark
Yeah.
magician.
I knew
The
Preston.
information he presented was really important, even if he did water it down a lot and stuff. It opened the floodgates, as it were. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like a rhyming to have Lucifer on there and help people understand, like that's what that is. That's like why he put it on the cover of his book. Like Lucifer was erected the year that his book came out, which I think he did on purpose. So like, yeah, there's just that but it's not like a crazy long book either. But like, there's a
Nice.
lot there at the same time. Like it
Nice
explains
work.
stuff
Yeah.
in a controlled
Yeah.
manner.
Good job,
Wow.
Hakeem.
And just to
Very
say,
good.
Preston Nichols did a service when he showed the decadelta antenna essentially is the same octahedron, which defines the origin of phase conjugation, which is how you time travel. The geometry of the
Hmm.
antenna, literally. So there was some good physics there.
And John has his book too. John wrote.
Yes.
You have a book?
Yes.
Go ahead.
The Man with the Periwinkle Eyes,
Oh, yes.
Volume 1, Fire and Rain. I will send you the link and you can put it in the description.
Will do. Good
Um,
idea. Yes.
Mhm.
It's on it's on archive.org. It is public domain, completely free to read. What I've found is that when people publish their books, all of their friends make a big show of buying it and then they don't actually read it. So I'm giving people no excuse but to actually read it.
A shareable
So-
wave. You're a shareable
Yeah.
wave. Good work.
Yeah. So, yeah, and it's not for the faint of heart, I would say. I held back quite a bit on how blunt I could have been, but it's still not
Wow.
an easy read if you're a survivor of some of this stuff.
Wow.
Good job,
But,
guys.
Good job. Good
Mhm.
job.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's not easy focusing all that, to write a book and stuff. I mean,
Yep.
you have
I
to
think the
really
mo- the part
dedicate
that ir-
time.
The part that irritates me the most is like I keep on finding new information that I wish I could have put in the book.
Uh-huh.
Exactly.
But
Mhm.
all I can do is just keep writing books, right? That's all I can do.
That's good.
Like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I,
Next volume.
I'm
Yeah.
just remembering
Christy.
Tony Rodriguez's book too. It's very parallel that story. Yes, go
Mhm.
yeah,
ahead.
he's actually the guy who opened the floodgates for me, and it's
Yeah.
pretty cool because like the first time I ever spoke at a conference, it was on a panel with him,
And
and
Tony
he's
and I
been
just made
kind of-
we made a documentary together. He's animating it now, and he really gets the fact why the obelisk is an anchor for lucid dreaming because it's a node in the longitudinal array. He calculated where the array nodal points are, distance to water, for example, and understands where the lucid dreaming, where the remote viewing is anchored by the longitudinal nodes.
Oh, hey Dan, before we go, I'd like to have you on my show sometimes, and we can talk about lucid dreaming and how important that is and how it plays into all of this. I
We
think that
call
could be a fascinating conversation.
Thank you. We call it We Are the Array, and I would love to.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. We'll have to keep in touch, and
Cool.
I'll reach out to you through Alexander, and we'll schedule something in the future after the conference.
Fun
Yeah.
one.
Just by the way, so that conference, can you let us know when it is?
Okay, so it's the 15th to the 18th at the Serrata Resort in St. Petersburg, Florida. Tickets are still available. Live stream passes are only $44, which is super cheap. So to those of you who obviously it's cutting close, but if you still want to check it out, we have so many amazing presenters and
the website?
yeah, there's a website, fulldisclosuremovement.org is the website. So that's all the information that you need there. And then, I have my YouTube Disclosure Now explanation point, and a lot of the people that'll be speaking at the conference and stuff like that, I've done interviews with them. So you can dip your toes in the water there. And also there's some ads for it and stuff like that on my YouTube. So you can check out like the ads for it, stuff like that we've made. And yeah, it's gonna be great. Like I said, it's coming up really short. So I don't know if any of your viewers are going to be like, grab a plane ticket and fly out, but hey, maybe you even have some viewers who are in Florida and it'd be easy for them. So I feel like it's worth mentioning still, even though it's really close. It's actually less than a week away now.
FullDisclosureMovement.org. Thank you.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
And
It'll
I
be an
also
annual
am
thing,
doing,
too.
Sorry.
and I have a YouTube page as well that I've created with all my experiences, and then I also started doing card readings as well. Like I made my own card decks with the symbols and the ET drawings. So I do readings as well. So I can send you that link as well if you want to.
Please
What's
do.
the site? What site is it?
It's on the ETSY store, so that's to purchase like a reading, but then on my YouTube page, then I have my readings too that I video it so you can see what they are, how I do it and stuff, and I'll give you the link. Christy
Keep an eye out too for the full
Christy-
disclosure now. We're going to be doing a show
Campbell
on
at
channel.
11.
We're going to be doing a show on my channel where she does some of that stuff. We talked about it. It's not scheduled yet, but we're going to do a show where we like play around with that a little bit, and that should be a lot of fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'll put it in the description so you can have that there. It's my email for the YouTube channel, Christy Campbell CC33 on my YouTube channel. So
Okay. Good.
yeah,
Well,
kind of
thank
a
you.
lot of information.
And
Thank you.
Dan, tell us what you're doing in September.
Oh, yeah. Well, our international conference is about sold out. We've got about 80 people for the 5-day South France, but there's maybe a little room. It's fractalfield.com/2024, our 4th international major conference. Beautiful South France, lots of fun. And, we have the kids who see without their eyes, and we have Bridget Nielsen, amazing, shaman with indigenous story of Healing Soul Memory, Healing Ancestor Memory collectively, many projects, and the Flame in Mind Bliss project, and the new piezofire.com. So we have many, many projects cooking. It's all good. Thank you. Thank
Nice.
you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, Alex. Thanks, everybody. I'm really grateful to meet Alex.
Yeah,
His
thank
friends are
you.
always amazing.
Yep.
Amazing.
I had a lot of fun.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
It was a
Bye.
share. Bye,
Bye.
John. Bye, Alex. Bye, Christy.
Thanks,
Archive.
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Was
Love you all.
magic. Magic. Thank you.